Welcome to NFL Top 10's for Friday. My name's Ernie Jennings, and today we're just going to take a quick look at the Hall of Fame candidates. And if you've watched anything about the NFL, you've seen that Bill Belichick, they already seem to know that he is not going to be one of those people that make it into the Hall of Fame as a first-time candidate. And a lot of controversy over that, whether he should or shouldn't be. You know, he did win a lot of games, and I know there was some incidents in his career that where he was penalized. You know, and so there's different positions on that, whether he was already penalized, so why penalize him again now as you're voting for him, and if you're just basing it on his career and the amount of Super Bowls he's won and so forth. So he's not in, even though I thought that was somewhat of a secret until they made their announcement, but I guess not. Sounds like another one is Eli Manning may not be in either. But what we're going to do is look at some of these candidates today, and the top 15, the ones that are the finalists, the top 15 finalists. And then on February 5th, I believe it is, they're going to make their final announcement of who is actually going to be into the Hall of Fame. Out of all these candidates, only 3 to 5 of the 7 remaining finalists can make it into the Hall of Fame. This is for the active players, the modern, what they call the modern players. And out of those people that they choose, they have to get a vote of 80% of the vote to be inducted. So there could be a minimum of only 3 people being elected from the list of modern candidates. And then from the list of the older players, or what they call the coaches, contributors, or senior finalists, only up to 3 of those as well. And they need to clear the 80% threshold. And it's much more difficult to do that with among them, I guess. But they could have as few as 1 in that category. So let's look at these guys. So first we'll start with the modern day players. Drew Brees, number 1, Drew Brees. Well, he's obviously a first round. He'll definitely be in the Hall of Fame at, first vote. There's just no way that he won't get 80%. When you look at some of the records this guy has, 1 Super Bowl win. What's crazy in a way is he's never was the MVP of the league, but he had some incredible years, and I guess he was just matching up with other players. He was Offensive Player of the Year in 2008 and 2011, and let's see what else he's got. 13 Pro Bowls. Led the league. He was 14 seasons. He was in the top 10 in passes completed, 13 seasons passes attempted, 13 seasons passing yards in a single season. He's got more 5,000-yard seasons passing than any other quarterback, including Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, which are the 2 guys with those types of yardage. He's got more than them. Just amazing. He's second all-time in passing touchdowns with 571. He's 7th in career passer rating with 98.7. He's just an incredible player all around. So there's just no way he won't get in. And he'll be, worthy of that award. He's just been an incredible player. He's one of these guys that was not the, questioning his height and so forth, but this guy could throw on a dime, just was able to always find the open guy and had such a nice touch on his pass. He was really an amazing player for his career. So that Drew Brees, number 1. He'll definitely get in. And the second one up here is Eli Manning. Eli Manning, from what I'm hearing, when you listen to these guys talking, he is not going to make it into the Hall of Fame. And which you gotta wonder a little bit about that. I mean, his career overall isn't as impressive as Drew Brees for sure, and that might be the part of it. But Eli Manning was a two-time Super Bowl champion and MVP, and looking at some of his numbers, he had some incredible stats as well. You know, and when you play long enough, you're going to get these kind of stats. But 10 seasons in the top 10 in passing TDs, 7 seasons in the top 10 in passing yards. For his career, he has over 57,000 passing yards, which is tied for, which is 11th. Now, Drew Brees was second in most passing yards. You got to look at that. His career passer rating for Eli Manning was 92.9, which is 7th. And that's in 2011. His career actually was 84.1. Now, this is one of those that hold him back. His career passer rating is 84.1, which is 67th best. That kind of hurts him. You know, and some of that I don't like that number as always, because you always have to look at the team he's played on, that kind of thing. So in career passing yards per game is 241, that's 21st. Not as impressive, obviously, as Drew Brees, which may be one of the things that's hindering him. And in total, in looking at him, is whether he's going to get it or not. You know, and his numbers just aren't quite as good to be picked in the first time. Now, this is the second time. He's still not going to make it, it looks like. So, and when you look at some of the other candidates, this is going to probably explain why. So, Eli Manning is not in the Hall of Fame. Next up, let me get him in here. Next up is Larry Fitzgerald. Now, Larry Fitzgerald was only second to Jerry Rice in a whole bunch of numbers. Just incredible. Second to Jerry Rice in receptions with 1,432. Second in yardage with 17,492. I mean, he's just incredible. Had 121 receiving touchdowns. He had quite a career himself. So he's, for his career, like I said, second in receptions, second in receiving yards, sixth in touchdowns with 121. Looking at some of his other numbers, he's just been an incredible player. Now, the only knock on him was the fact that he never was on a Super Bowl winning team. Never went to the Super Bowl, but he was in 11 Pro Bowls. And how could he not be in? There's nobody better than him, honestly, in most categories other than Jerry Rice. So Larry Fitzgerald is the next one up. And he's, from what I'm looking at and reading, he is likely to get in. So you've got Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald right now as likely candidates to win or to make it in first round ballot. Now, Frank Gore is the next one up. He's got some astounding numbers too. And this is due to longevity. He's a guy you would never pick or think about in a lot of ways as far as the amount of yardage he's got in running the ball. So in rushing yards, he's got 16,000 rushing yards, which is third all time. But only 5 seasons where he was in the top 10, or 6 seasons in the top 10 in rushing yards. Out of all the seasons he played, which was 16 seasons. So only one time was he, or only 6 times was he in the top 10, and yet he's third all time in rushing yards. He's 20th all time in career rushing touchdowns with 81. He only made the Pro Bowl 5 times, which kind of dings him a little bit. And so you have to look at it like just based on longevity is how he got up to this number. Rushing yards per game, 66.4, which is only 62nd best. He also had 484 receptions, which was 200th among running backs. So good, a good steady player and put up these kind of numbers. But he's somebody that, from, again, what I'm hearing, will not make it on the first ballot, despite the fact that he's the third all-time leading running rusher in NFL history. And it's just, I think it's a knock on him that, that when you look at him per game basis and so forth, he never had the kind of numbers that some of the other guys had. And he just was able to do it by longevity alone. Now, next up is Jason Witten for the Cowboys, tight end, great player. Now, he's one, as far as tight ends go, he's one of the all-time best tight ends. In receiving yards, career-wise, he's got over 13,000, which is 22nd among receivers, all receivers. He's fourth among receptions with 1,228. Receiving touchdowns, he's 43rd with 74. Receiving touchdowns, which, by the way, this isn't always the case, but in career touchdowns as well, total touchdowns, he's got 74. A lot of receivers get some time at some point in their career will run a pass in or run a end round or something. He never had a running touchdown in his entire career. But Hall of Fame, 11 years. Pro Bowl, 11 years, 11 different times. So he's just been a long, steady player. Let me see here. Let's look at some of his other things. As far as tight end, first team numerous times just throughout his career from 2004 to 2012. He was in just over and over first team player for Pro Football Writers Association or the Sporting News, Associated Press, just the whole litany of them. He is very likely going to make it into the Hall of Fame. He's one of those listed as a good shot. So now you've got three: Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, and Jason Witten as the three most likely so far. Next up is Adam Vinatieri, who played from 1996 all the way to 2019. So he had quite a long career. One of the best clutch kickers in the NFL history. Played on a lot of great teams. Made the Pro Bowl 3 times, which, questionable. Points scored in his career, he's first with 2,673. So something there. So he's a kicker, though. So I don't know how a kicker can ever be first time. And I don't know that he's not first. This isn't his first shot. Well, it is actually. 2019, he retired. So this could be his first year, maybe his second. But there's a lot of push that he'll get in. Honestly, I'm not sure about kickers being in there. I know they're important players and at key points in the game, but I don't know. I just don't know. Career-wise, field goal percentage, he's got an 83.776, which is 39th best in NFL history. I don't know. I'm not comfortable with a kicker, but he's listed as a definite possibility, but I'm going to say he does not make it as a kicker. I don't care if you do hold the record for most points in a career. For me, I just don't see it. Now, another one next up is Luke Kuechly. This guy would have had an even better career. I don't see him getting in, even though I think he might, from what I'm reading. His career was only 8 years long. This guy was hurt so much. I'm looking at his games. Well, five years. 5 out of his 8 years, he did play all the games, looks like. So 3 years he wasn't able to finish the season. But this guy was incredible when he was playing. 2013, he was Defensive Player of the Year, 7 Pro Bowls out of 8 years. 2, he had a fumble return for a touchdown 1 year. He's just a good player. Tackles, solo tackles, he's 67th in solo tackles with 690. Total combined tackles, he's got a career of 1,092, which is 66th best. Again, to me, there's other players like this that I feel like, I don't know, you really have to bank on, you think he was the best player by far the years he was playing, that he can make it into the Hall of Fame despite the fact that he only played for 8 years. And in those 8 years, he didn't play all the games necessarily for 3 of them. So I don't know. He's somebody that he's an inside linebacker. I mean, he was a great player, and I don't know. But from what I'm hearing, he has a good shot at making it in. So he would be the 4th or 5th guy. All right. Next up is Torrey Holt. Torrey Holt was a key player for the Rams, St. Louis Rams, part of the greatest show on turf. He was an amazing player, explosive, had 920 receptions in his career. And I think that's going to hurt him. You really think he needs to get to 1,000 receptions to be considered on the ballot. Now, he's not in the senior category yet because he's hasn't had that many years, but he's getting close to where he'll be pushed down into this other category and away from the modern players. His last year was in 2008. So he's been trying to get into the Hall of Fame. Well, you have to wait 5 years. So he's been about 12 years now, 13 years. And so I'm not sure what year, but it's got to be soon that he gets down into the senior finalist category where you stop being considered a modern player. But Torrey Holt, 7 Pro Bowls, 1 first team All-Pro. Like I said, in receptions, he had, and for his career, 920, which is 27th best. Receiving yards, 13,382, which is 17th best, so it's better there. Receiving touchdowns, 74, which is 43rd best. Just numbers that are really, really good, but not quite good enough, I don't think. And that's what's been holding him out. He just isn't quite good enough to make it in. And what's the problem here is that every year, you have numbers that would be good enough, but then, so for example, this year, he's got to go up against Drew Brees, Eli Manning, Larry Fitzgerald. Well, obviously, he's not going to get votes over Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald is a much better career-wise receiver than Torrey Holt, and the same with Jason Witten. So you got 2, a tight end and a receiver already, that have better numbers than Torrey Holt, which makes it hard for him to get in. The same goes for the next guy, and that's Reggie Wayne, who was an incredible player alongside of Harrison. And those 2 guys were amazing. But Reggie Wayne his numbers actually are better than Torrey Holt by a little bit. So if you're going to pick between the 2 of them, it's going to be Reggie Wayne. And Reggie Wayne had 1,070 receptions, so he had 100 more receptions. So he's 11th all-time in receptions. Career-wise, over 14,000 yards with 14,345, which is 10th best versus 17th for Torrey Holt. And then in receiving touchdowns, he's got 82, which is 31st. So good numbers, top 10 in receiving yards, almost top 10 in receptions. So he's got a much better shot at it. But I don't know if he's going to get in. He'd be maybe the 6th player. And right now, Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald are locks, as is Jason Witten. Those 3 are locks. After that, I'm not sure who else has a shot at it. but Reggie Wayne would definitely beat out Torrey Holt. Now, looking at another player, getting off of these, and it's always easy with these guys that are, offensive players because they can put up big numbers. Now, Marshall Yanda, he was a guard. Makes it always hard, as a guard. He played for the Ravens from 2007 to 2019. Great player. But when you try to look at his numbers, it always makes it a little harder, to gauge how well he can play, how good he is, I should say. 8 Pro Bowls in his career, 2 first-team All-Pros. So that's pretty good. And but what other stats? I mean, he was called, and he played for what? In his career, he played for 12 years or 13 years. 13 years. He played for 13 years. He was called for holding 11 times in his entire career. He had seasons where he was never, the most he ever was called in 2012, he was called for holding 3 times. He false started in his career 25 times. That's amazing, honestly. That's just not that many, is what I'm saying. Total in it, yeah, it's just amazing. 11 holding penalties in his entire career. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons where he wasn't called for holding, period. I think that's pretty amazing, honestly. But I can't gauge these offensive line players, so I don't know what his shot is of getting in. It's got to be hard for these guys. And, he has to weigh him up against other players, but these offensive players put up numbers that are astounding. And then even on defense, there's players who put up more numbers like interceptions or sacks and stuff like that make it a big difference. So here's another one. Willie Anderson played for Cincinnati most of his career. He was 13 years in the league. He's been on this ballot since 2008. He finished his career in 2008, so he's been on this for a dozen years trying to get into the Hall of Fame. Good numbers, very similar. He was a right tackle, but very similar things about holding 13 times in his entire career. Only 22 false starts in his career, so pretty amazing. 4 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pro, so good numbers. His Hall of Fame ranking is 63. I'm looking at this. This is something that's on this site I'm looking at, StatHead. His Pro Football ranking is 63.03, which is 28th among tackles. The average Hall of Fame tackle is 95.5. So that says to me that he doesn't have a good shot at it. Let's go back and look at Marshall Yanda as far as guards go. See what they say on that. His guard status for Marshall Yanda is 84.65, which is 13th among guards. But the average Hall of Fame guard is 105.71. So again, he's falling short of guards already in the Hall of Fame. So to me, I guess that sounds like he might have a difficult time actually making it in, as good as he was. It's stiff competition on those offensive line positions or defensive line positions. Man, it's got to be tough. Another one here, Jari Evans, a guard, played for 12 years for the Saints, and then 1 year for the Green Bay, his last year, but most of his career was with the Saints. See what kind of numbers he put up. 6 Pro Bowls, 4 first-team All-Pros, which is pretty good. Now, he's also a guard. Looking at his numbers here, we'll just go with this Hall of Fame thing here on this guy. But his number is 98.75, which is 10th among guards, better than Marshall Yanda. But the average guard thing, like I said, is 105.71. So he's much closer by over 10 points better than Marshall Yonda. So maybe he has a little bit better shot. Now, here's a name everybody knows, or if you've been around a while, Terrell Suggs. And he was always quite a player himself. He played for 17 years. Oh, that's a long time. Looking at some of his numbers here. He was Defensive Player of the Year in 2011. 7 Pro Bowls. First team in 2011. That's the only time he made it. Pretty amazing that he was only first team once, but 7 Pro Bowls in his long career. He's got 139 sacks in his career, which is, let me find it here, good enough for 8th all-time in sacks with 139. On the unofficial list, which I prefer, he's 12th with sacks. Unofficial sacks started in 1960. The official one started in 1982. He's also got 630 solo tackles, which is only 103rd best, which is not that great. And honestly, I think Luke Kuechly had more tackles combined than Suggs, who played 10 more years. So, some of this is longevity, but he was off Defensive Player of the Year 1 year. So let's look at his numbers here, what they say on him, if I can find it. Hall of Fame. He's 96.3 as far as off. That's what it is. Outside linebacker is what they got him at. I had OLB and I was thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, for outside linebacker, it's 103.48. So he falls short a little bit. So we'll see if he gets in. Now he's been around. He retired in 2019, so he hasn't been up for nomination that long, maybe 1 or 2 years now. All right. Now, let's look at another player here. Darren Woodson, safety. From 1992 to 2003, so he's been around a while. Played 12 years, had 23 interceptions. That's just okay. Had combined tackles 967, but of course he was a safety, so you're not going to necessarily see as many tackles as somebody on the line, I guess. 5 Pro Bowls, 3 first team All-Pro. Now let's look at his stat. He's got a 68.33 as far as Hall of Fame monitor, but for defensive backs, that's only 44th best among defensive backs. The average Hall of Fame defensive back has a 96.93, so it's quite a ways off for Darren Woodson. So he's one of these players that he's been around. His career ended in 2003, so he's trying to get in, and he hasn't been able to do that. Just not going to happen, I guess. Like I said, I don't know when they start this. We'll look at these guys that are senior players in a minute. All right, one more player, and that's Kevin Williams, defensive tackle. Now, these guys are great players, but, somehow you've got to separate the great players from the Hall of Fame players. I mean, they're all great, but still. So Kevin Williams, defensive tackle, played for 13 years, most of them with Minnesota, and then a couple other teams at the end of his career. 5 interceptions, 528 combined tackles. But again, he was a defensive tackle. Now, looking at defensive tackles and what they say on those guys, let's look at his reward. 6 Pro Bowls in his 12 years, 5 first team All-Pro. That's pretty good. 5 times first team All-Pro. Hall of Fame monitor. Wow. This guy, for defensive tackles, he's got 106.03, which is 9th among defensive tackle. The average Hall of Fame defensive tackle is 102.36. So why he should have a shot at it? I mean, he's been at it. He's been out of the league since 2015. So I'm not sure why he's not getting in if his numbers are similar to or better than some of the guys in the Hall of Fame. So that one, I don't know. And again, these defensive guys or offensive line people, it's hard to know. All right. The last few people we'll look at are what they categorize, and why they do this, I don't know. These are coaches, contributors, and senior finalists. These senior meaning a player that's not been in the league for a long time. So the first one is, as far as that goes, is Ken Anderson. Ken Anderson was a great player for Cincinnati Bengals. His whole career was Cincinnati Bengals. From 1971 to 1986, one of the best pure passers in NFL history. But he has not been able to get into the Hall of Fame, so he falls into the senior category. Now, looking at his numbers, he was the 1981 AP MVP, 1981 Offensive Player of the Year that same year, 4 Pro Bowls, so pretty good player there. Let's see, look at his number. Passing yards, career over 32,000, almost 33,000, which is only 48th now. But at the time, obviously, it would have been better. Career passing touchdowns, 197, which is 55th. This is what's holding him back, is he had a few good years, but then not that many. 9 seasons he played for, 16 years. 9 of those seasons, he had passer rating in the top 10. So just an all-around, good pass completion percentage. He was 9 seasons. He was in the top 10 in that category as well. So he was really one of the best quarterbacks for a long period of time. But he's not in the Hall of Fame. And here's why. His Pro Football Hall of Fame monitor has him at 82.99, which is 25th among quarterbacks. The average Hall of Fame quarterback is 103.58. That's why he's not getting in, despite the fact that he had a really good career, and maybe that's why. He's got a really good career, but not quite good enough to make it into the Hall of Fame. I don't know how many years you can be on the senior list before they say, okay, you're not going to get in. Roger Craig, another one, played from 1983 to 1993 for the San Francisco 49ers for most of his career, the best part of his career, put it that way, really. This guy was the first guy to have 1,000 yards receiving and rushing in a single season. Was really an incredible player on, whether he was running or catching. 1988, he was AP's Offensive Player of the Year. He made it to 4 Pro Bowls in his 10 years. This is where it kind of hurts him. Rushing yards, though, when you look at, if you combine the yards, that's where he's better. Rushing yards over 8,100, almost 82, that's 47th. Career rushing touchdowns, 56, that's 69. This is what's really killing him. But then in receiving, this is where it helps him out some. In 1985, he led the running backs in receptions with 92. He's got 566 receptions, which is good enough for 25th overall among, so total touchdowns, he's got 73, which is 108th. Yards from scrimmage, over 13,000, which puts him at 49th. So he just was an all-around good player, but just not really cutting it, I guess. And looking at his Hall of Fame monitor, 77.48, which is 24th among running backs. But the average Hall of Fame running back is 106.95. So he's another one. I don't see him getting in. He had some good years a couple of good years, especially that one year where he was 1,000 yards receiving and rushing. And overall, I guess just not good enough. And the last one, this guy I thought was already in the Hall of Fame, and that's L.C. Greenwood. I'm like, how in the world is he not in the Hall of Fame? Probably because too many people on his team already are. So that could be why. I don't know. Let's look at him. Now, he played a long time back, too, 1969 to 1981. Mostly, in fact, his entire career for Pittsburgh. How he's not in as a defensive end, I don't know. I thought he was just one of those guys that was unbelievably good. But twice he never won the Defensive Player of the Year, but he was voted on it. 6-time Pro Bowl, 2-time first team All-Pro. But he's playing on Pittsburgh. So many great defensive players in that time period. Had 78 sacks in his career, which is only 133rd. And that could be why. Now, looking at his numbers, Hall of Fame, he's got an 82.10, which is 19th among defensive ends. The Hall of Fame defensive end average is 102.38. So he's quite a ways back on that. So he's not going to get in, probably. Now, here's the thing, and as we wrap this up, out of these last 5 players in this, what they call this senior list of finalists with Ken Anderson, Roger Craig, L.C. Greenwood, they're also going up against the contributor, which is Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, and then Bill Belichick, who is the coach in this category, all up. Now, Belichick is first-year ballot, and I guess Kraft is too. And I've already heard Belichick isn't going to make it because there was people who wanted to see some of these old players get in, like Anderson or Craig or Greenwood, and so they shifted their vote away from Belichick. And that's what they're saying, but some of them might have been just that they don't like Belichick. So I don't know. But it's very possible in this category is only one person gets in, and that will be Robert Kraft. How can you not have him in? All the Super Bowls his teams won, and Belichick was part of that as well. But we already know he's not going to get in because that's leaked out. But Kraft probably will get in, I would think. Other than that, I don't know that any of these guys, Ken Anderson, Roger Craig, or L.C. Green, would get in. We'll see. They got to get 80%. If no one gets 80%, the person with the highest percentage actually does get in. So would receive, which means only one person then. All right, so that's your candidates, and we'll find out February 5th exactly who the winners are, who is going to go to the Hall of Fame and be inducted this year. All right, that went longer than I expected. I didn't realize that. Appreciate you listening. Next week, be all Super Bowl. We'll be talking different things Super Bowl. So I saved that for next week. Already enough talk about Super Bowl, but we'll talk about it next week. That'll be fun. Appreciate you listening. Please like and subscribe. You can find this podcast on YouTube at Just the Stats NFL, where you can watch it or listen to it. Also Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And again, I always appreciate subscribers, and I look forward to next week when we talk about the Super Bowl. So until then, I'm out.